Good morning, this is the Eager Beaver Show.
You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters. CanadianTarot.com, your uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community, and the Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. Well, good morning and hello, kids, and welcome to season 4 and episode number, this would be 548 of the Daily Beaver Morning Show here on the Crier Media Network. Yeah. Today, recording day is Thursday, January 2nd, 2025, and it looks like it's going to be a nice day so far here at the Beaver Lodge. It's starting out really nice, but I hear that there is going to be some weather coming, and I see that you in the chat, Kits and Cubs, are already talking about it here. Kid Argos Acres going, winter is returning, and Kit Swanky says, with a vengeance. If I am not mistaken, it is a nor'easter that is about to hit us. I think particularly in what's called the Snowbelt region in Ontario, and I'm pretty sure Atlantic Canada as well, if I'm completely up to date. And yes, a certain amount of accumulation expected in certain places, but it seems that we are going to get, at least a good number of us are going to get a dump. So yeah, well, hopefully I'll be able to get a little bit more on that for you today during the show, because we also want to go through our year in review that we had started yesterday. Yesterday, we talked about the international and national stories and players, and we still have some provincial and municipal things to talk about. So, hoping to bring that to you today. But of course, there has been a little bit of news, and we have to get to that a little bit as well. So, I was hoping that Mr. Grizzly would be with me here today, as usual. Unfortunately, he seems to might have needed some more hibernation time. I don't know exactly what happened today. Hope it's not another migraine, because I know he's been suffering with it, and with the storm coming. Change in pressure, that just might be it. Might have woken up this morning and said, not happening today. So you have me. So I'm working the controls and hosting at the same time. So I obviously humbly request your indulgence while I have to look for a couple of things, because when Mr. Grizzly's around, things are way more smoothly. Uh, Run way more smoothly than when I'm alone. But we will have a wonderful time anyway, won't we, Kits and Cups? Because you're here and I'm here, and that's really all that's required, right? And while we're here, let's say hello to the best damn fam and all of podcasting. We have Kit Elaine and Kit Uncover with us this morning. Kit Argosy Acres, as mentioned earlier. Kit Mr. Jim, hello, my friend. Nice to see you. Kit Tabby G, up and early with us. Thank you so much. Kit Toronto Dan, hey, my friend. nice to see you. And Linda M, of course. Hello. Kit Janet is with us this morning. And yeah, Miss is with us. And Kit Tom Trask. Hey, good morning. How are you? Just slid into home base to get that hello in. Uh, so glad that you can join us this morning. And I'm sure that there are more of you out there. Um, I'm your host, the Eager Beaver, pronouns he, him, hey, Mr. Beaver, hey, and with me, as usual, is Mr. Grizzly, as noted. And a big thank you goes to our podcast founding sponsors, the Peppermaster, the Miss V Mysteries from Corvin Moon Publishing, and CanadianTarot.com. Um, well, how's my mental health doing today? And how is yours doing today, kids and cubs, since we're here in the chat? Mine is doing rather well, I have to say. Um, Default mode is happiness and optimism, so that's functioning today. Um, I don't know, just it's just a good day. I know that things are coming, so I'm really just trying to enjoy the bliss of the current moment more than anything else, to be totally honest. But yeah, all in all, in a good mood, um, feeling feeling productive, I would say. Um, Looking back at the last year and feeling, how would I say? Um, I think I mentioned this yesterday, a little more accomplished than I thought I would have at first blush, looking back, because that which marked this year, of course, in my personal life, is such that it was, I remember 2024 first as a tougher year. But if you take some actual time and take a look back, there was actually a lot of good and a lot of accomplishments. And some of the accomplishments just were not of the type that I had planned for, let's say, when the year started. And of course, well, um, as the saying goes, for those, you know, who believe in a higher power, but if you want to make your higher power laugh, make plans. So, oh, so but yeah, actually, a lot more accomplished, and I thought about that as I was thinking about this year with regard to the show. And because yesterday, when I talked to you about um, how we did strictly with regard to donations and whatnot on the strict dollar and cents level. But there was more last year. And I was thinking about it a little bit. And, I was like, wow, we kind of did a lot. I mean, first of all, we had incorporated. That was kind of important. Then we created later in the year, we created a place on Blue Sky, and that's doing well, um, despite the fact that there seems to be an exodus from the bad place. We're gaining more people than we are losing from people who are moving away. So that's growing a little bit. Even our Facebook page, which had stagnated for a while, because it was more. Um, Not as integrated into whatever we were doing, but I talk about it more in the show, and some people have gone there to check it. So even there's been a little bit of growth. So that's kind of nice, as you know from our YouTube audience, based on what happened around Canada Day, when all of a sudden things exploded a little bit. And we were hoping for close to 1,000, and bought a little tiny little bit of advertising, and whoops, all of a sudden we almost hit 4,000. And then later in the year, Mr. Grizzly did another push, and that got us to where we are now, over 10,000. And that unlocked all the monetization aspects. So, for example, if you're watching now and you're on YouTube and you see a little dollar sign on the bottom right, that's the super chat stuff. And there's membership tiers and that type of stuff, which we haven't. for those of you who have gotten it, we thank you. We tried to make a little bit of extra content that's been a little less frequent since the last little bit, given that we've been trying to catch up on other things, particularly getting all the episode descriptions written, getting them posted so that our audiences are all together at the same time, which is probably best for our growth as well. Because I'm pretty sure that when 7 episodes come all at once, that seems like a lot of beaver to listen to all at once. And, just the daily rendezvous thing is something that's very important. So we're hoping to get back in that habit as well. But with all of that, still incredible growth in our YouTube channel. Um, Everything we started it in July 2022. So in the last year, we almost doubled everything. Um, sorry, not in terms of subscribers, but in terms of views. In the last year, we doubled everything that we had accumulated in the whole year and a half before, almost doubled. Um, so that was pretty cool. Shorts probably had a lot to do with that, and of course, some additional advertising as well. But because of all of that, now we qualify for some advertising revenue based on the viewership. So when the viewership goes up, we get a little more, and that allows us to do more. And then with the super chat function, by the way, thank you to Kit Grouchy Fish, I believe. And oh, darn, there was somebody else, and I noted it down. Oh, yes, here's where I put it. And Kit um, Saucy for super chat contributions that I saw yesterday when I was looking at things after the show. So thank you so much for that. But because of that, um, that's also some additional revenue. But those options were not possible for us until enough of you found us, and you did, and liked us enough to subscribe. So again, all of that, I mean, yes, we are doing the work producing the content, but all of that in terms of making it happen, it doesn't happen without an audience, and that's all thanks to you. So that happened this year, and you had a lot to do with that, pretty much, everything to do with that. And then like I said, because of the financial support that you showed in the year previous, we were able to take our show on the road once and try to do a podcast in another city. So we did a pilot of that, and it worked pretty well. So we're looking this year, hopefully, to be able to do one or two outside the nation's capital for the next year, perhaps more. If there's the ability and the funds to do that. And as Mr. Grizzly said, we're going to look at trying to do some type of um, either telethon event or um, sort of like NPR sort of type campaign event to try to see if there's a way to gain a couple of dollars in order to be able to fund that type of initiatives to be able to bring the show closer to you in some way. Taking the show on the road, of course, is a little trickier, of course, because you have to get to places and there's lodging and stuff. So it's not uh, producing a show that way definitely raises costs a whole lot more than it does just bringing something to you every morning the way that we do. But we want to meet the kids definitely, and we want to bring the show on the road and live interaction for a show. you know if we were doing a sort of doing either a show like this or a podcast type show with the people in the audience who were there and laughing with us and chatting with us and even coming on if they would like to have a little bit of conversation, that would be fun. I think would add a different element to the show. But even just audience, because the day we did the mental health walk, we had a bit of audience for the show that came after, and it was just a nice ambiance there because you could see um, people, giving you some feedback, nodding and smiling, and even like saying something from the audience, every now and then. So some mild, good-natured heckling uh, or interjection, not so much heckling, but interjection, and some gentle ribbing. So all of that was very good. So hopefully we'll be able to do that as well over the coming year. So we'll have something with regard to that. Looking at a couple of I have a couple of other ideas that I want to run by Mr. Grizzly, but I'll won't mention here because I would like to talk to him first before I start to musing about them aloud publicly, so as to not to tie his hands or tie his paws. Commit him before he says yes. Let's put it that way. Um, of course, with the help that you've showed us over the past couple of years, Mr. Grizzly has been able to upgrade his computer system. I've been able to upgrade mine. Unfortunately, it has not been in place yet because, as you know, we're in renovations and we are playing Tetris. But we are pretty much done with insulating the floor in the other room, which means that we can then start getting the stuff out of this room, which means that there will be room to actually disassemble this desk and reassemble a new one so that I can still have a desk and a computer set up. Because, this has to come down and the next setup has to happen within within 16 hours if we're doing it on a weekday or at least over the course of a weekend. And let's just say there's a whole inventory of stuff just over there that's supposed to be in the other room over there. So there's not a lot of place to switch things. So hopefully that will be all set up, and then you will see the benefit as well of be having to be able to get a new computer system. But we did upgrade our audio. We've got all the methods to be able to bring you some remote uh, coverage, and we've tried to do that. So all these things are there to make the show better over the course of the coming years. Then, of course, we produced a show for you every weekday, including holidays for all of 2024, except for one when technology just really got the better of us and was not going to let it happen no matter what we did, in addition to our podcast specials. And then we did a deep dive on the federal court's decision about the invocation of the Emergencies Act to bring that information to you beyond the headlines, but what the decision actually said, which rights were specifically violated and in which ways, and were there any remedies, and was it a clear case or was there some wrestling with the decision? So all of that, we brought that to you, and that was very much appreciated. Your feedback on that was appreciated. So that gives us some ideas to do certain other things in the future, should we have the time to do them. But we know that these types of features are appreciated. Then we covered no fewer than 4 provincial elections, with a result special for 3 of them, as well as a result special for the US elections. There might be up to 5 or 6 provincial elections next year. Oh, God, help me. That's just too much. It's too much. We need to spread them out. Wow. Um, and then we brought you 23 interviews with guests as varied as Cranky Canuck, then opposition leader, now Premier Susan Holt from New Brunswick, Jordan's mom, the Honorable Senator Patrick Brazeau, economist Dave Gray, education and rainbow activist Gail Costello, and the former mayor of St. John, Don Darling, among others. We organized and held the first annual mental health walk to bring attention and raise awareness of men opting for silence rather than talking about it. We prepared several specials on the topic, and we partnered with 3 community organizations. The walk was held by a community group in La Ronge, Saskatchewan as well. And while the primary goal wasn't to raise money, but via the sales of T-shirts, and thanks to some people that would do some donations, and thanks to Kit Aussie Pete for a great design, we had raised just about $500 committed to various causes. There is some money I have not collected. Unfortunately, we have had difficulty getting the last 3 T-shirts printed, but we are still working on that so that we can get them to you and then claim your donation. We did not want to take your donation or cash it in before we knew we actually had the T-shirts to deliver. But for the 2 kits who are still waiting on those, we are still working on those and have not forgotten you. Unfortunately, there's a snag at the other end, but we have not forgotten. And once we are able to clear that, and should you still want the shirts, of course, then we will have our final tallies, and we will be able to distribute whatever little money that we did raise to the 2 community organizations that we had. The money that went to the Canadian Mental Health Association went to them directly through their own mechanism. And I believe there were kits that made donations to other things. I believe there was a firefighters or police officers or frontline officers fund somewhere in southern Ontario that someone made a donation to as well. Um, and then we have our donations that we will give to the group in La Ronge and the group in St. John's that is looking to establish a resource center there. It won't be much, but hey, it's a little bit, and hopefully over the years that will grow. But again, that's not the primary intention. It's just that, if somebody wanted to help along the way, we're not going to say no. But over the course of this year, we're hoping hoping to find some people that will help us cover some of the administrative costs of running that, because that's what we did last year. We made sure that 100% of your donations did go. So we covered any money transfer costs and the costs of printing the T-shirts and shipping them. We took that on to make sure that whatever little money was going to be raised did go to the organizations. So, like I said, just waiting to get on those last one's printed so we can close the books on that and make sure that the two organizations do get that. But um, that was an initiative that we hope grows this year, and hopefully we'll have a few more community sponsors that will be willing to join in and spread the word, and just you know a nice slow organic growth, so that people that are taking part of this are doing it from a good place and doing it from a place that makes sure that it's about the actual cause and the mission. So, but thanks to you, that did happen, and we had people join us on the walk, which was really nice. And we did a special from the walk itself, and then afterwards, the pubcast that we did that for which we had the audience, and it was just a beautiful experience. And then, of course, thanks to your support, as mentioned yesterday, we had just over 66% growth in your direct contributions through our coffee page. And when we include the YouTube revenue for which we became eligible just in the last 2 months of the year, but still, that got us to about 83% year over year growth, actually 84 if we round up. So, we're still a group that went from 3 digits to 4 digits last year. So, it's it's not like we're going to be taking a trip around the world or anything like that. But it does help us. It covers clear our internet fees. It covers some of our cell phone fees, so that when we're working on cell phone and these are things that we use to run the show. It covers some of our subscription fees to some of the services that we use to help edit and just all that kind of stuff. So and um, travel to and from pubcasts and that type of stuff. So we appreciate all of your support. As mentioned. On the show, Mr. Grizzly, we plan to reinvest some of these funds in advertising because it has proven to be quite the return on the investment has proven to be quite good for us. It seems that when people are exposed to our product, like it enough to subscribe at a high enough rate, that makes it an interesting prospect to go forward with that. So we thank you so very much for all your help in doing that. As we mentioned, might looking at doing a telethon type thing or fundraising drive. Try to do something fun with it though, not just some dry thing, but try to come up with some type of theme or something to make it more interesting. And with particular reference to our coffee page, we're going to be trying to using it more over the course of the year, in terms of, for example, publishing written content. If we're going to do that, some editorials. A lot of people like to do stuff on Substack, but given that we already have a mechanism set up on Coffee for Donations, maybe some more written content there, trying to use it maybe a little more as a de facto website. So for those of you who are not haven't gone to our coffee page, coffee.com/eagerbeaver, all in one word. If you go there and subscribe there, you don't necessarily have to be on that page to give us a donation. We have the ability to post content there. And I think we're going to be using it a little more because I'd been looking at setting up a website. Um, but coffee has all the mechanisms for if we had merchandise and other types of things to be able to put it on there and advertise it. So I think we're going to try to explore that site's potential more over the course of the year and see how that works for us. So there you go, kids and cubs. We hope that 2025 will be brighter and bigger for all of us. And we thank you for all that you do to contribute to our show and our dream. And of course, as you know, our dream eventually would be to, of course, be such that this could be our career, but not only that, foster the creation of other shows under sort of like overall sort of True North Eager Beaver Media sort of like little group. Not sure if we have aspirations to necessarily be our own network one day, but at least an incubator of some type. And so we'll see how a thing goes, and maybe one day, who knows, maybe even have the ability to provide someone with a good job. Who knows how big it could go? But right now, we're just two guys doing something that we love and for which we have a passion, and that thankfully connects with you. And you know, whatever this becomes. We have the ability to see something big, and and sort of aim there. But you know, if it's a if it's a if it remains just a cozy rendezvous between friends, that's good too. Because this is already it's already bigger than I had ever imagined it would be before I started. So, thank you for all your support and encouragement over the past, well, we're closing in on 4 years, in April, and, more to come. Okay, so that's our year in review, kids and cubs, but, I'm sure there is a little more to talk about over here, that involves you. And I'm just going to go take a look. There we go in the chat, and we have Kit Linda M that mentioned it exactly. Three Oaks Cabin. That's the organization, a respite home for farmers and firefighters that offers mental health counseling, established in memory of a local young man who took his life. And thank you so much for that, Kit Linda M. And I think we might actually attempt to reach out to them specifically this year to since you brought them to our attention to see if they would like to be a part of it. That might be a little nifty move on our part. Thank you for letting us know about them. We really appreciate that. Okay, so let's see here from the kids and cubs. Wow, you have been active. Okay, let's see what we have here from you. Okay, uncover the news, bringing us some stuff that's going on in the United States. Um, Lots of wishes of Happy New Year still. Kids and Cubs, by the way, uh, for you, what do you think? When do you think it starts to be too late to keep people wishing people Happy New Year? There's a school that's out there that says you can say it all throughout January, and then there's other schools that say that's a little earlier. So maybe not when's appropriate, but when do you stop saying it? Let's put it that way. I mean, unless someone says it to you, of course, then of course, you answer in kind because like, why not? It's a happy greeting. But I mean, otherwise, when do you stop using it proactively? I'd love to know. Let's see. What else do we have here from the kids? Lots of people saying, good morning. Kid Argosi Go says, I should be at the gym. Dark mornings. You're exactly where you need to be. I might be biased in that one. Ah, man. Ah, let's see. Kit Toronto Dan says that 2024 was well, I'm going to use his words, shitty year. I always count my blessings when I wake up breathing. Needed plenty of crutches in 2024. This year, I'm the crutch, but still an asshole. Wink. He's not an asshole. He's a really sweet guy. I really loved meeting you. That was a nice way to end the year, my friend. Let's see. What else do we have here? Okay. Kit Dan says has a show idea that they'll be running by the boys later this month. Okay. Cool. Yes, please run it by us. We are very interested in ideas. That's really cool. Thank you so much, Kit Dan. Let's see what else do we have here from the kids. Kit Linda M telling us about Three Oaks, as we mentioned, and there we go. Thank you so much. And yes, Uncover the News telling us here in the chat that Canadians uh, CEOs earned a lot of money last year. I think something like an average of about $13.2 million in 2023. That's a lot. Kid Toronto Dan is telling me to stop lying to you that he's a nice guy. You guys crap me up. I love it. Okay, let's see. Um, Before we get back to the review, there is one tiny little piece of juicy news, I would say. And it involves an update that we gave you yesterday. We talked about the Quebec caucus of the Liberal Party allegedly having had a meeting, and there was no letter from this one, unlike the Atlantic caucus meeting. I'm not sure that there was a letter from the Ontario caucus meeting either, but I might be incorrect on that one. Don't quote me on that. But it would seem that with regard to the Quebec reporting about what the Quebec caucus has done, Stéphane Lauzon wrote this. As the chair of the Quebec Liberal MPs caucus, I would like to clarify that our last official meeting was held on Wednesday, December 11th, 2024, and the next one is scheduled for January 9th, 2025. Furthermore, no letter has been signed or circulated within the Quebec Liberal MPs caucus before, during, or after the December 11th meeting. My family and I are currently out of the country on vacation, but I will be available upon my return next week. I would also like to remind everyone that the deliberations and discussions within the Quebec Liberal MPs caucus are conducted under strict confidentiality, ensuring a climate of trust and collaboration. In the meantime, the caucus remains fully committed and united in its actions, continuing to work together in the best interest of all Quebecers. So that is a pretty firm. I don't know what you guys are reporting on about some type of meeting. We haven't had one, and there's even less a letter. Now, that does not mean that there aren't grumblings within the Quebec caucus and that there haven't been telephone tree type calls and discussions about that. But no meeting, no letter, nobody tasked, it seems, with bringing the message on behalf of the Quebec caucus to the Prime Minister, unlike what was reported. Uh, Again, might just be a matter of time, but it seems that claims that this had occurred are at best premature at the moment, at least according to the chair of the Liberal caucus. So that was a interesting development. Again, Kitland at this point they're just making shit up, and Kit Vim they're worrying more about the block. Mm, mm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm. Yep, that definitely could be. Had thought of that angle, but yeah, in that case, yes, you're right to Kit Vim. There were there might be some concern about the block in that case. Huh. I'm gonna have to ponder that one more. Um, but yeah, so not like I said, does not mean that there isn't this undercurrent happening. However, um, news reports confirming or suggesting that there's been some formal organizing, regardless of any informal organizing that may be happening, do not appear to be true at the time of publication. Now, of course, the letter does not say whether or not they plan. Well, I mean, they do have they actually the letter does say that they when the next meeting is scheduled, does not say whether or not they plan to discuss that matter at that next meeting explicitly, but it would be kind of hard to imagine a context in which they would not. I mean, all of this, right? So that's going on right there. So just making sure that how you some news reporting in the effort to get the scoop or to be the first to report something will sometimes fill some blanks in um, without necessarily having that fully or entirely confirmed. And if that's what happened in this case, um, they were told. Oops. Oh well. Um, as well, if you are in Alberta, starting this month, drivers of Teslas and other electric vehicles are now going to have to pay a $200 tax. That's going to be a henceforth tax whenever they register their vehicles. This will be on top of the regular registration fee. That fee is $90 for a car. Now, the tax applies only to fully electric vehicles and not hybrids. The reason for the tax, allegedly, is to cover the cost of road maintenance because allegedly batteries and engines weigh more and therefore do more damage to the roads. And it is justified on the basis that EV owners do not pay a tax on gasoline, although they probably pay taxes on electricity. And, you know, rather than establishing an extra $200 tax on the car, maybe there's a way to identify what electricity is being used to charge a car or a tax on EV car, car charger. I'm not sure exactly how to do it. If they wanted to get some money to recover roads, because yes, I mean, if part of the gasoline tax is going into roads and EVs are never using gasoline, then yes, the treasury is losing that money. That is definitely a thing. How exactly to recuperate it, however, um, making someone pay $110 more every time they register their car than someone who's still using gas. eh, that might still be the right thing to do optically. Creates the impression that people are being punished for making the right switch. Uh, but there is a legitimate loss of dollars there. However, um, William York, who's a board member with the Electric Vehicle Association of Alberta, says, quote, the real culprit in damage to roads due to weight is commercial vehicles that are above the weight that they are allowed as per city bylaws. Those are the strongest contributors to road damage, stating that while electric vehicles of similar size to gas ones may weigh more because of the battery and the engines, it is not so much more that they don't still, it's not so much more. So in that it weighs more than a gas car, but still less than plenty of the gas and diesel powered trucks and SUVs that are on the road. So that is a case. Then again, you could also make the case, yes, but if we traded in, switched all the gas powered SUVs and trucks on the road for gas power for electric powered trucks and SUVs, then all of them would have more weight and therefore more damage to the road. So there are there's some legitimate point there. Um, but when this happens in a province in which the underlying context is what they have done to renewables in terms of the renewable sector, um, that's kind of scary. And what's really actually interesting on that particular front, and I just learned this morning actually. It's kind of interesting. But a lot of people make comparisons between Alberta and Texas. Well, it turns out that Texas that we think about, right, as oil rigs and whatnot, is actually the number two place in all of the United States for renewable big battery storage, and the number one investor in the United States for renewables. And the reason for this mostly is because demand is going to be going up. With AI, Bitcoin, that type of stuff, the electricity demands are just immense. And it's not going to be covered by just regular exploration of fossil fuels. So, Alberta, in this case, under Danielle Smith, is doing the opposite of what Texas is doing. Alberta is getting out of renewables and actually going back into coal on top of that. So they're literally just abandoning the entire field of play to Texas right now. And it's not like Texas isn't fighting to maintain oil any less than Alberta is, but it's also doing the other thing because they're not basing it on only future oil or supply. We've got oil, we can supply it. They're basing it on demand. This is what the electrical needs are going to be. And even if we pumped every single drop, it's not going to be enough. So solar, wind, going back to nuclear and that type of stuff, they're all in. But Alberta seems to be going the other way. Kind of scary. So in that context, when you're looking at that $200, it does come across more as a punishment, even though you can make a case, definitely, that there's revenue lost to the Treasury from not using gas and that there is additional damage to the road in terms of weight. Now, is there more damage to the road? I shouldn't say that. That there is more weight on the road. Would that more weight on the road be enough to create that much damage that would warrant that type of tax? That's a different type of thing. But if you say, like I said, if you replaced everything that was on the road now with electric vehicles, would there be more weight on the road? The answer is yes. So, um, yeah, you know, so, but it's really in this case, it's context that are saying it. But at this instance, it doesn't look at first blush that it actually is a punishment. It actually looks like somebody did make the case, that looking, 20, 30 years from now, if we want to maintain the roads, we're going to have some revenue somewhere. And if we're not getting it from the gasoline tax, especially if we have, another policy that at the federal level that says starting 2035, all vehicles manufactured in Canada have to be there's going to be no more. Not that all gas vehicles are going to be banned. If you still have one, you'll still be able to use it then until you drive it into the ground. But that all vehicles made in Canada are going to have to be right electric. Well, at that point, that there's a date at which you're getting no gas money anymore. So you got to plan for that. So like I said, there is a legitimate thing here. But because of who's doing it and the overall context, it can easily be spun as being an anti-EV move. All right. Those are the two big national things. There's a couple of international things going on, but I will save those for the end of the show if it is possible to put it in with the rest of the things that we need to talk about. Okay. Something that caught my eye here. But I am going to just shift on over here. There we go. And take a little sip of water. There we go. That's much better. All right, kids and cubs. Um, so last night, oh boy, yesterday, we looked at the international and national stories and players that had caught our attention last year. And this year, today, oh my God, I'm, yee. All right, I'm having trouble with time. Today, we are going to look at provincial and municipal stories. And of course, since I do not have with me Mr. Grizzly this morning, kids and cubs, I hope in the chat while we are doing this, you will freely suggest your own thoughts for who we should include or what we should include on this list. So, on the level of provincial politicians, now last year when we did this, we made a distinction between premiers and non-premier provincial politicians and players. This year, I actually found that a lot harder to do because the premiers took up so much damn room. We've been saying it on the show. Uh, our premiers are the problem. And there's one prime minister, and there's 13 of them, if we include the territories, right? We normally only talk about 10, but if we're including the territories, 13. But the territories, again, have to look at them in a different context. I mean, you can still have good and bad premiers, but they don't necessarily, not full devolution of powers hasn't happened there yet. So there's a lot of stuff that's happening there that's not their fault or for which they have no responsibility. And to be totally honest, I'm not completely clear on what's what and who's who and in that division of the three territories to be able to make fair judgments. In that sense, I can make fair judgments when the premiers bring their assessment to national issues. And there's been a few years, I think was during the pandemic and from the recovery out of the pandemic, that the premier of Yukon was a territory was particularly helpful and had some particularly good advice. So, and during COVID, the premier of Northwest Territories was a particularly uh, good advocate for doing things a little differently, given cultural issues and distance and scarcity and that type of thing. So uh, it's not that we don't include them um, in this, but in terms of um, being fair about what's attributable to them is less clear to us than it is for the actual provincial premiers because it's the same for all of them given the constitution. In that light, kids and cubs, um, most everything we got to Kit Toronto Dan just popping in here. Ford and Smith, losers, winners Wob, and the lady you interviewed, that would be Susan Holt, Kit Dan. And I would say that you are hitting our mark. You are guessing with us here. So among our best, of course, we had the Premier of Manitoba, Wob Canoe, and we are of very, very firm belief that Mr. Canoe is the type of person on whom a lot of people should model themselves if people are looking to copycat or borrow a model that works and try to adapt it for whatever it is that they are doing. Uh, and might I say that the country could do worse than have a few more Wob canoes. Just saying. So, but yes, he has come into office. He seems to have maintained the happy warrior spirit, which is good. He is not afraid to take some positions um, that are necessarily not in line with the federal government, but he doesn't present them in an antagonistic way in the manner that the premiers of Saskatchewan and Alberta do. Um, he the things are progress no, not progressing. Things have started. There's actually been some searching of the landfill, 'cause and that would not have happened unless of him. Um, he seems, to be responsive. He definitely still has the approval of, the residents of his province, the highest approval rating of all the premiers, hands down, by far. Um, just, uh basically in terms of provincial politicians, is probably the MVP of the year. Along with that, we have the Premier of Newfoundland and Labrador, Mr. Fury, who hammered out a great deal for his province with the revised deal on Churchill Falls with Premier Legault. I could include Premier Legault here in the sense that there was, how would I put it? In one way, there was no reason for him to admit that this was a bad deal for Newfoundland and Labrador, but he did publicly say it, which probably will do a lot to mend some fences between the two provinces because this has been a long, bitter thing that has lasted between them. But of course, Quebec did secure its long term interests in terms of having clean energy well into the future with this deal as well. So it wasn't completely altruistic. They're still getting energy into the future at a better price than they probably would otherwise. But Newfoundland and Labrador is also getting a much fairer deal in the process. So that's a big development there. That definitely warrants a mention. Premier Susan Holt, as we mentioned, because at the beginning of the year she was opposition leader, and in this year of where this time where people seem to be moving a lot more to more conservative type governments. She is one of the few that has, it's still an out with the incumbents type wave, but she is a more progressive leader that has managed to usher out a conservative government and also seems to have be starting relatively well. Sorry, I have a she knows here, starting relatively well in her new mandate. So hopefully we will see what happens with that as well. We have Naheed, who became the leader of the Alberta New Democratic Party over the course of the year, and one for us, particularly biased choice, but Hugh Gordon in Saskatchewan, who in an election that brought the Saskatchewan Party back to power, still uh, he was able to unseat a minister and take a seat for the NDP there. And we mention him, of course, because he's a friend of the show. So a little biased selection there, but still worth the accomplishment. Unseating a minister in a government in an election that returns a majority government to the majority position is a really big deal. So he ran a good campaign and he got the results. Now, let's see if you got some more stuff in there. Kits and Cubs from you. Okay, let's see. We had Kit Cassie saying Susan Holt from New Brunswick, but I think she might have been mentioning that name to Kit Dan and not saying it as one of her choices. There you go. Um, Kit Vim says add Legault to the loser list. Kit Linda M says we just need to clone Wob 10 times. Yeah, really. Kid Cassie wonders, what would the national political scene be like if the federal NDP ran more like the Western provincial NDP? That's a very good question. That's a very good question. Um, Kid Toronto Dan, not related to this, but to the mental health walk, asks, what do y'all think about raising 25K towards the mental health walk and including the mayors of Toronto, Ottawa, and the PM? That would be great. I'm not sure that we have the scale to be able to get all of them in 1 year, especially in the next 6 months. But aim high. Why not? As Kid Vim says, let's try and make it happen. Um, let's see. What else do we have here? Um, choo, 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 choo. Okay, Dan. All right. I think that's everyone here. Okay. So for the provincial players that impressed us the least, I think, again, um, we are going to, it's going to be a little obvious. Of course, we have Premier Doug Ford, uh, not the least for the fact that our CMP have started asking questions of people associated to him or his administration with regard to some of the greenbelt stuff. And seemingly able to take at least 30 weeks away from the legislature in a 52-week period while having the unmitigated gall to tell people to get off their ASS. Mm, yeah, that was a bit much. Premier Scott Moe, which to me is my perennial favorite for the worst, uh, on my list, of course, but probably not the worst this year. He's been holding a couple of Premier's kegs and wannabe Premier's kegs this year. But oh, I don't know why he's still around. I mean, flat uninspired, doesn't seem to have uh, any type of fresh ideas. Often seems like he'd rather be somewhere else. Um, uh, Made a lot of news with his attempt to withhold collecting carbon fees in Saskatchewan, but never being particularly honest about the fact that he would still have to pay them, which means that residents of Saskatchewan would be paying it one way or another. It would just be a hidden tax rather than a transparent tax. And then, of course, being one of the premiers leading the charge on all the anti-trans stuff. Just leave kids alone, man. Leave kids alone. Danielle Smith, for all the obvious reasons. As Mr. Grizzly said, we could do a show every day just on her. Nate Pike has his hands full doing a show just once a week. And sometimes I'm sure would like to be talking about anything but her on a show. Um, so yeah, she I mean she definitely knows how to make news and grab headlines, but of course, she is a media PR type. So but yeah, she's just bad decisions. I mean, even just what we were talking about with regard to, ceding the complete territory on renewables. There was an article uh, out in the Star Phoenix the other day that I will bring to you when we get back to regular news. It was an opinion piece, but about basically saying, this is about Saskatchewan, but it could apply equally to Alberta. You got almost everything you wanted on the clean energy regulations. Why are you still opposing this? It's like, just like, take the damn win. Whatever spread there exists now is so insignificant that you should be able to find a way to get over it. You won on all the major points. Just stop doing this fight the government thing. You won. So yeah, we'll see there. We have Blaine Higgs, of course, even though he's not premier anymore, was for a better part of the year and was not particularly good at it, so much that he got himself the boot. We have um, one particular um, member of provincial parliament in Alberta, Jennifer Johnson. And as our friend Lisa B says, fuck you, Jennifer Johnson. And for those who are wondering why we say that, she's the person that campaigned on the fact that comparing trans children to feces in a cookie, I believe. So fuck you, Jennifer Johnson. You get on the list just for that. And John Rusted. Again, for obvious reasons. Guy's a walking disaster. Um, thank thank whatever tender mercies he didn't win, but that's like I said, a very tenuous and slim majority by the NDP in British Columbia. But this guy John Rustad, um, wholly unacceptable on a wide array of metrics and utterly shocking, and yet somehow not surprising that he would have gotten such wide support in the provincial election, at least, and definitely enough to stick around and keep on um, adding that toxicity into the political discourse in the province. Hopefully, um, the residents of British Columbia will tire of it before will tire of the rhetoric before they tire of the EB government, and that will be a way to send Mr. Rustad packing. But it seems that we, unfortunately, he's here to stay for a while. But those are my worst with regard to provincial politicians, and my most underappreciated, if I was asked, would be a former speaker of the House of the Legislature in Saskatchewan, Randy Weeks, um, who not only was treated absolutely poorly, but when he left, did attempt to burn everything down by spilling the beans on everything. And unfortunately, even within Saskatchewan, even though it did get some coverage enough for us to hear about it, didn't get the coverage that it deserved for it to make the impact that it should have in that election. Saskatchewan Party did get fewer seats, and people are tired of them, but not enough to actually make them lose power, and seemingly, at least at this point, not enough to force the party to want to squeeze Scott Moe out for, um, yes, getting another majority, but um, making it the narrowest one that they've had in a while, which sometimes can be enough to cause some grumblings. But so far, that has not yet surfaced. The most overrated, although that may have changed a little bit at the end of the year with the presentation of her housing plan, which by all accounts seems to be rather quite serious and a pretty decent piece of policy. But that is Liberal of the Ontario, a leader of the Ontario Liberal Party, Bonnie Crombie, and overrated, mostly because there was a lot written up about her as, the only way to go, particularly in this whole move with, everybody's embracing conservative movements, particularly, men 44 and under, but young men is embracing conservative movements. You got to let go of the woke stuff and, help them buy a house and, encourage people to go into the trades and that type of stuff because, that's where it's at. You got to tack more to the right. Just leave this left stuff. And so Bonnie Crombie is a symbol of that, right? I mean, she once said in the campaign, later tried to correct herself, but that she pretty much was conservative. Um, and like I said, the opposing or the alternative view would be to lean into the left, like which we were talking about the prime minister. If there's a path forward, that might be his. But with this policy, it's not that she's leaning in to the left, say, but she's put out a policy that's actually responsive and that could actually yield some meaningful results. She listened to people, and yes, she did take in some elements of what the left has to say and integrate it. So she wasn't. Um, she showed a tendency to be open to having a little more progressive in her conservatism. Let's put it that way, which got some attention of some people. So I'm still going to say overrated because a lot of it is, where have you been this year? You won, and there was like no big splash and follow up, and like, and I know there's some party work to do and some policy work to do, stuff like that. But I mean, there was the lack of visibility was shocking. Um, but a strong enough finish to set up a good 2025. Hopefully, they take advantage of it. Now, of course, I'm saying all of this, and a lot of this is a little unfair and harsh when you consider that the Liberal Party of Ontario technically doesn't even have official party status because it got so decimated. So, in terms of fundraising dollars and access to resources to do what they need to do, they do have to work a whole lot more harder than a third party in Canada usually would if it had official party status. So, uh, expectations might be a little unrealistic for what it is that she might be capable of doing, but still, mm, it was almost a near vanishing. Maybe this year, had she not come up with that, um, she probably would have gotten the Vanishing Cream Award. She maybe still has, is maybe still in the running, but it's like, just, where did she go? All right, kids and cubs. How about your worst on the political provincial scene, or your most underappreciated, or your most overrated? If you've got anything in there, would love to hear it. I'm right here in the chat. Vim asks about Elizabeth May. Yes, we did talk about her yesterday as in one of our top picks for a federal choice this year for the way that she has been leading the charge in whatever way she can on the foreign interference file. For example, being the first to get this top security clearance and then to report back, and seemingly being the opposition leader that most wants to know uh, whether or not Pierre Poilievre is blackmailable for all intents and purposes. So yeah, uh, definitely. We had her on our list, and that was a good choice on your part, Kid Vim, as far as we're concerned. Kid Uncover the News has some beaver news for us. There is a beaver that's been nursed back to health after nearly drowning in a Charlotte pond after Sunday storms. The beaver was named Augustus Theodore, or Augie by the center. He was found face down in a pond suffering from hypothermia. Oh no, but they saved the beaver. Yay! Save the beavers. I can see the t-shirts now. Oh man. Okay. Oh man, oh man, oh man, oh man, oh man, oh man, 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 man. Okay, let's see what else do we have here. Kids and Cubs. Unlearned 16 did a wonderful video in Ontario PB. I'm not sure what PB is with Merit Styles in the Ontario PB. Um, Sorry, I can't piece together on my own what PB is supposed to mean to Kit Tabby, if you would let us know that. But yes, Merit Styles. Um, would like to see more from her. Like there are sometimes I see her and like she's going out, I'm going, okay, yeah, yeah. And then the next thing doesn't quite happen. It's more a level of consistency across the board and a consistency in the effectiveness. Uh, but there's some potential there. There's some potential there. I just want to see more. Want to see more. Um, all right. Let's see what else do we have here from the Kits and Cubs on this. Uh, okay. No, no more over here. Okay, we're talking to, oh yes, Kit Vim saying we should invite her on the mental health walk. Yeah, I think that she might be the type of person who would be down for that. Uh, yeah. Yeah, we could probably reach out there. Okay. Good morning, Kit Environmental Coffee House. Says, well, I'm an hour late. I guess better late than never. As we say on the show, we don't care when you get there, so long as you get there. So welcome. All right. Moving on to, if we're staying in the provincial realm, some stories this year that caught our eye and others that we thought might have been underreported over the course of the year or overdone. So there's a lot here. And um, a lot of it seems, I mean, maybe that's just because we're in Ontario focused. So provincially, if you've got something, kits, throw more in. But it's just Doug Ford has been that bad. So, but we have the whole thing with the Ontario Science Center The way we just keep on finding out everything, like down to the initial report that they gave us, how everything was a lie and a fabrication. They just created their own reality in order to do what they wanted to do. If we're looking at Auditor General reports and all that type of stuff, um, and people who have blown the whistle, it's and all for an enterprise that will be there that will generate less over the course of a 95-year term lease than Taylor Swift generated in economic activity dollars for 6 shows. I I don't get it. Um, the whole vilification of trans children to the point of wanting to pass laws, uh, some of them with the notwithstanding clause being touted, that would deny parents the right to make an informed medical choice for their children. The government literally coming into your family and saying, no, you're not allowed to. Yes, you're the legal guardian of this child, except for this. On this one particular thing, we know better. We're going to come and intervene in your life. This is the small government, people. This not okay with that. And that's a big issue, and it's a bigger issue also because that's a testing the waters thing when it comes to fascism. Let's find the vulnerable group that have the least amount of people that will stand up for them. Yes, and let's take away their rights. And let's get everybody actually cheering for that and saying that that's reasonable. It's a, this is not good. This is not good for any of us. Um, the wins of Premiers Canoe and Premier Holt in their respective elections, thus flipping some provincial governments in Canada, much needed flips as well, constitutionally. So that was thank goodness those happened, and with EB winning as well, maintaining within a wave of anti-incumbent sentiment. Uh, but two anti-incumbencies that did flip to more progressive viewpoints in a world where progressivism seems to be being rejected, but still anti-incumbency. And in British Columbia, with anti-incumbency being the order of the day, the progressive option remaining the menu. So provincially, there's been a win for progressive politics. The exception in this case has been Nova Scotia, which completely bucked the anti-incumbency tide, and this despite not having particularly good results when compared to that on which he ran the first time around. What else do we have in terms of stories? Of course, the Churchill Falls story, as we mentioned earlier, that's a very, very big deal in terms of interprovincial trade and economics. The rise of the same usual suspect group of premiers against safe consumption, with Ontario Minister of Health Sylvia Jones ridiculously stating with a straight face that nobody is going to die as a result of closing 10 centers, and even removing things as basic as even needle exchange in certain cases. They'll still do, in certain cases, they still plan to do needle drop off, but not exchange. There's thus making it less likely that people will come and drop off the needles because what's in it for them? I just, so yes, but when Sylvia Jones says nobody will die, it's because she considers that people who will die are nobodies, because that's the only universe in which that sentence makes any type of sense, as if she considers them to be nobodies. The Jasper wildfire, that was a huge story, provincially, as well in Alberta. The whole thing with the skybox with Danielle Smith, which has a little part of the reporting on which has led to Nate Pike of the Breakdown being sued for $6 million in a slap suit to get him to stop reporting about what it is that he's finding out. It would seem that Nate Pike is the type of person um, to whom people will say things off the record, perhaps. People send him stuff. So I guess that there are people out there that do not want him to be seen as a conduit by which stuff that is embarrassing could be sent and made verified and made public. Um, that is a scary thing because people with money can um, uh, tie you up in litigation and try to drain you emotionally, physically, and financially to get you to not say things about them that are unflattering, even though they are true. So apparently, the law is such that these types of suits are not considered malicious. In certain places, it's starting more. Uh, because we had Douglas Judson, a lawyer from Northern Ontario, around the holidays last year, talking to us how in Ontario, slap suit legislation uh, uh, can't be used anymore, or you cannot use the defense anymore that it was just free speech when you were going online and referring to gay people as pedos. That that's not a matter of free speech, and slap suits can't be used for that anymore. Um, But yes, it can, it is very easy for small little outfits like ours to be intimidated or silenced into not covering a topic by somebody who has money who doesn't like that, by just claiming that you are defaming them and then putting the onus on you to prove that you are not. Yes. So, do you want to do all? And we've seen it with Crier Media. We've seen it with David Wallace. Now we're seeing it with Nate Pike, and all of them have to borrow a page out of Rebel, I guess, and start appealing to their audiences. Could you donate so that we can hire some lawyers so that we can fight this? Meanwhile, the person who's doing that, um, whatever they are spending to do that, is a drop in a bucket for them. It's money that they won't miss at the end of the year. But whereas for the people it's being done to, um, they literally have to go to their audiences cap in hand and ask for money in order to just be able to freely say the truth. But it's truth that someone doesn't like. Um, so yeah, everything uh, revolving around that issue with Skybox is taking on other dimensions now. And then finally, the premiers are tripping all over each other to negotiate away our sovereignty to the United States in public. Again, just shut up and stop talking, please. So those were the biggest stories, the ones that seem to have gotten the most coverage and caught our attention the most. Kits and cups, of course, looking to see what they are for you. So please, in the chat, if you can, do let us know uh, what your thoughts are on the big stories provincially here. And let's see, what have we got here? We have Um, Kit Christian saying, major respect to Nate. I do believe that. Uh, and yes, major respect to Nate. And we will be having him on sometime. We'll be recording something with him next week so he can tell you himself about what is going on and why it is going on. Because, we believe that in these types of instances, we have to stick together and, help get the word out for each other because um, someday down the road, uh, you know, it may be us that gets one of these. And, so we're there for others when it happens to them. And hopefully uh, they will be there for us because this just seems to be a strategy that's being used. Um, all right, let's see. Who do we have here? Um, Nick Forte asks, do you guys think we will get any accountability out of the politicians lining their own pockets? Unfortunately, probably not, Nick Forte, Kit Nick, because unfortunately, when it comes to that, we are in a situation where people making the laws, determining the rules, and determining the penalties that regulate their own behavior when it comes to political ethics happen to be the people who would be subject to the laws. So until we find a way to have independent third parties write those types of laws, um, you know, we've seen it often. Like there's an ethics violation and it's a $500 fine. Yeah, I mean the hit to public reputation and whatnot, if it matters, ends up being the bigger thing. But it's a $500 fine at the end of the day, which is not enough teeth. That's oh, this is how much it's going to cost me to do this. Uh, assuming you believe you can weather the storm of public condemnation when the news comes out, and a lot of politicians think they do, and a lot of politicians can for a long time until they can't. They go back to that well one too many times, but yeah, the unfortunately the system, there's an inherent conflict of interest there, unfortunately. Kit Sassi says the fisheries is a big story not covered well enough, and the Liberals need to understand this will cause them to lose the Atlantic ridings if they do not address the situation. Yes, I'm not fully on top of it, but I have heard a couple of stories with regard to. I know that there's some um, uh, disagreement with regard to fishing rights, with regard to indigenous populations who need to do it basically for subsistence and a modest living, not necessarily for full commercial purposes. When And then, of course, determining determinations on stocks. Uh, there's permits that have been issued for certain experimental uh, type of cultivation or aqua farming and that type of stuff, or more experimental fisheries that uh, where the people doing the fishing are getting paid by the government to do the fishing so that science can be done with regard to that, and that also has an impact on the commercial fisheries, and some disagreements about what the levels and the quotas and things like that should be shared. I know that it's more complex than I'm saying and more detailed, but that there are these types of issues going on, and there's probably certain many others as well that are even larger with regard to that. But yes, the fisheries issues is a big one in Atlantic Canada. It's been big enough that it has uh, made the distance so that I would hear about it from here in the news things, and it has been coming up more and more often. Still hasn't been getting the full national traction that it deserves, though. But it has been coming up more often. Let's see, what else do we have here from the kits? Let's see here. Boom, boom. On a personal level, Toronto Dan, I found beer in stores to be convenient. I like it. However, it should never have been done before taking care of long-term care homes, housing, healthcare, transit, and scandals. Indeed, Kit Dan. It was definitely not the main priority. But in this case, as we mentioned on the show, it was doing the thing he could do to make it look like he was taking action because he had no answers for the real pressing things, like finding us doctors or housing people or getting housing built or dealing with encampments, right? For those things, he has no solutions or properly funding post secondary education, that there's a cap on students coming from other countries. So, yeah, indeed. Dean comes with a counterpoint. My problem with beer in stores is that its convenience to me isn't worth throwing some people's addiction in their face wherever they go. I know an alcoholic or two struggles with it. Fair point. Indeed. What else do we have here? Um, Nick says Jasper could have easily been prevented. A forest of standing dead trees isn't much of a forest, in my honest opinion, or in my humble opinion. Never know if the H is honest or humble in this case in that acronym. Let's see what else. Kit Uncover says Toronto's highest grossing speed camera issued 65,392 speed tickets worth just under $7 million has been vandalized for a third time in less than 6 weeks and thrown into the High Park Pond. I'm guessing people don't like being monitored. Kit Saucy says here with regard uh, to the issue of people who are unhoused. The issue is how society treats homeless people as a whole. People want shelters and homes for the homeless, but not anywhere near their community or homes. The stigma is everywhere. Kid Linda M. about alcohol in stores. I don't care how convenient it is. I refuse to buy alcohol in convenience stores. Remember that no matter what they do on a macro level, we still control our own choices about whether to support them. Indeed. 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 That is true. Um, let's see here. Kate Dean says, I always found it funny or sad that Doug's provincial cons wanted to attack safe supply sites, talking about uh, they don't want to support addiction when increasing alcohol and gambling's footprint. Indeed, there's some irony there. Absolutely. All right. Kit Saucy says Alice Munro was a big one we forgot to mention for national stories. Yes, indeed. Uh, Indeed. That one uh, caught some attention, definitely. Seems that there was a lack of honesty about a matter that was particularly uh, delicate, to put it that way. What else do we have here? Kit Lane saying, I'm glad that you're bringing Nate on. He is awesome. He is indeed awesome. He really does good work. We aspire to be as good as he is. He's just fantastic. Um, let's see. Kit Saucy gives us more information here. The Elver fishery is turning up into the same thing. People have been beaten up, threatened. The feds divided the quota up from a handful of licenses to hundreds. People are not happy. So, if it's getting to the point of violence, this is just not okay. Definitely something needs to be done. All right, moving forward in our discussion about subjects this year that caught our attention. Hold on here. I just need to open my file because I had closed it inattentively here. So here we go. And we are back to the provincial stuff. In terms of stories, for me, the ones that were the most ignored, we tried to bring some attention to it. And we hope to have, as our guest in this coming new year, one of somebody that I believe was the child youth advocate for Ontario at some point. Um, I'm not sure if that was the exact name of his title, but something similar. But it was the whole issue of kids in care this year. Um, Particularly in Ontario, when we found out that there was not one of the children's aid societies anywhere in Ontario that at some point during the year has not used either Airbnb, motels, or even their own office space to house children in care. And in Ontario, finding out that the parents that were surrendering their high needs care kids to the foster care system because the services just weren't there and they couldn't handle it anymore, which doesn't help the foster care system because the services aren't there. If they're not there for parents, they're not there for foster parents either. They're just not there. And then when we add to that, um, this is not, I mean, technically, it's federal compensation, but I mean, the services would be delivered provincially when it comes to services for Indigenous children. We keep on getting close to resolution of the deal. Everything that Cindy Blackstock is engaged with, but the AFN chiefs had rejected it because it still left some people out, and it was still being negotiated. Um, but there have been also some decisions in terms of funding child welfare services and making sure that it is now run by Indigenous-led organizations. And that's been an undercurrent. There's been a lot of movement. There's been some progress. There's certain things that are still delayed and that's still fighting for a proper recognition in terms of compensation deals. But all of these stories, they pop up now and then, but haven't been really picked up and driven home as a big national issue, and especially provincial issue uh, in Ontario, specifically kids in care, because that is a utter embarrassment, and I don't understand why that's not front page news pretty much every day until it is fixed. Um, the overall claim on our part that it is the premiers that are the problem when it comes to any claims that Canada may be broken, but they are not being made to pay any price for them. It seems to be landing all on the front step of the federal government, and then us well, everything having to do with climate change. Again, last year was the hottest year on record, and despite the fact that people's lives are being upended by climate disasters and insurance rates are going up, and there's certain places where insurance is getting harder to find. Um, that didn't change much in terms of voting. It doesn't change much in terms of polls, particularly if you bring that worldwide. With all the elections that we've had last year, there's been 2 billion people that have voted worldwide, if because including India and the United States. And despite all evidence that the climate crisis is here, um, there's been no significant vote for climate stuff. And the news coverage is commensurate with it. The disasters get coverage, but not what we need to do in order to try to reverse them and to teach us that no matter that we do what we do right now, to not expect a quick payoff because there's the next 30 years pretty much are baked in. So that coverage has not unfortunately been done. It's been sorely lacking. The most overdone stories provincially, booze in stores in Ontario. All the typical conservative premiers doing the whole evil tyrant Justin thing. That's just too much. Um, in British Columbia, the whole they're using drugs in hospitals now. That's been really overdone. There was never actually any permission to use drugs in hospitals. They were just telling people, you know, given that you don't really know what state they might be in, it's probably not advisable uh, to make an attempt to take them away if they happen to be using them in the hospital. They would have had to find something to get around that somehow to make sure that they weren't being used in the hospital. But it's the same type of policy that they tell people working at liquor stores. If somebody's stealing, don't be a hero. It's just not worth it. We got insurance for that. Um, and then the whole thing that Scott Moe made about not collecting the climate fee. Those would be the stories for us provincially that had been most overdone. Um, Yeah, whenever we would hear about it in the news, it was like, "Oh god, not this again." So, if you have any of those, kits and cubs, some, that, just, whenever you hear it, "Oh god, they're talking about this," and it made the eyes roll in the back of your head, um, that would, please do, let us know what they are. Let's see what else do we have here in, the kits and cubs here. Kit Nick CS as a joke 3 years ago, after my Indigenous sister-in-law was released from jail over drug and gun charges, she got knocked up, had a baby that went through withdrawals. We tried to adopt her. But anyways, at 2 years of age, my niece got into the stash and died, and yet she's still not even in jail for that. Oh my. Wow. That is wow. I I have no idea what to say to that, Kit Nick. Wow. Kita Nona Carol says, I have a friend who worked for both agencies, Indigenous and non. The system puts kids back in danger because they can't take care of them. Okay. We deserve better for our kids. We need to demand better for our kids. Um, but thank you for contributing that. And thank you for sharing that, Nick. That was, whew, um, didn't expect that. I have to honestly say. But real life, real life. Moving on to our municipal stories. Yeah, Nick gets touched, but that's the truth. Yeah, it's the truth. You got to look at it. It's tough, sorry, but that's the truth. You got to look at it. These are things going on. These are people are living this and wondering why people might be angry. This, you know, you've tried to do everything you could to try to help your kid. Like there are people that are surrendering their children. Help them. They're that desperate, and the service just isn't there. It's for nothing. Kit Dean goes, I'm absolutely exhausted with conservatives manufacturing outrage every 5 seconds. I wish our electric would not reward this behavior 9 times out of 10. So would we. It's one of the reasons that we try to do this show to try to get, okay, and this has happened. Like, for example, when we talked about the Alberta tax on EVs, like this was a punishment. So yes, you can get mad about that. But if we look at it, there is actually in this case, in this time, there actually is a point to it, and maybe we should pump the brakes on the outrage just a little bit. So, hopefully, we're able to try that, be a little bit of an oasis or an island of sanity. While everybody's just telling you, press the button, going, get mad, get mad, get mad. Um, you know, because there's yeah, uh, uh, reserve our anger for the things that actually do warrant outrage. Let's put it that way. Uh, all right, municipally, kits and cubs. Um, and this one I will need your help on because I'm only one beaver. And if I, covering 10 provinces and 3 territories is a lot, covering all the municipalities and this big, beautiful mess of a nation that we are is even more tricky. But the ones that caught our eye this year in terms of a municipal politician. The mayor of Montreal, Valérie Plante, really caught our eye this year, as she does several years. But this is her last year uh, in office. She had decided that she was not going to run again, that she had had enough. She didn't have the passion. She didn't have the drive anymore. She was honest about that. She talked about certain realities about being in politics today, particularly if you're a woman, harassment and all that type of stuff. But overall, over the term of her mandate and over all the way to the end, has been doing pretty good work. Seems to be very appreciated by the population. Um, does play a little bit of a role on the national scene in the sense that she hasn't waded too much into federal issues, but in anything whenever there's been a municipal link to a federal issue, she's always been vocal and seemingly with helpful intent, even if it's stuff that she didn't like or she's speaking against. Um, Not just complaining for the sake of complaining, but actually bringing attention to stuff uh, that actually is lacking. So, uh, and often with a sense of joy in it. She does have one of these inherent senses of joy. So it's just been fun to watch her this year, and yeah, so she would be my pick out of everyone this year for my municipal politician of the year. If you have any of your own to recommend, please do put him in the chat. For my worst municipal politician of the year, um, it's not just one, but it's a group of them. And this would be in Ontario, but for anywhere else where this is taking place across Canada, if you recognize someone doing this, please consider them included among this. But the now I think it is 15 mayors of Ontario who wrote to Premier Doug Ford asking him to abuse of the notwithstanding clause in order to help them with encampments rather than actually doing the hard work of addressing the issue and making sure that the human beings who are in these encampments are actually sheltered. Um, and the whole push to criminalize them uh, for trying as best they can, finding a place to stay at night that is somewhat warm and um, windproof, especially in a Canadian winter or on a rainy night, for example. So, yeah, um, y'all suck. Sorry. I don't have any. Oh, I don't have any fancy words for it. That just sucks. You can't do that to people. You can't do that to people. You can't, if there's no place for them to go, do not move them from where they are. I mean, just, and certainly don't damage or destroy or throw away what little they have in the process. Like, this is just not, and like in Ontario, $10,000 fine, really. Again, we said it on the show. If you're unhoused and have $10,000 for a fine, you have you have $10,000 to be housed. I mean, I don't none of this makes sense. So yeah, you all are the worst. Under the most underappreciated, um, I don't live in Calgary, don't know, but man, she has been taking a beating, and there's just no world I can believe that she is as bad as she's claimed to be. So that's Mayor Jody Gondek. If there's anybody out there that has some information, but I just, oh my word, from all, it's nonstop. It's just nonstop. Uh, the attack and the opposition that she gets. And then my overrated one isn't actually in power, actually, uh, but really wanted to be in power, like a lot. And that would be former Toronto mayoral candidate, and also, I believe, failed Ward 15 candidate, Anthony Fury. I'm just, dude. Come on, take the hint. So, and I'm sure Kit Dan might be having a giggle here. And of course, when it comes to municipal politicians, I do have to mention we have two very honorable mentions because we had two kids this year that rolled up their sleeves and decided to do democracy, to actually run for something. So, well, three technically if we count Kit Hugh Gordon, but Kit Hugh Gordon more of a friend of the Beaver Lodge who's been on our show a couple of times. But these is like two members of the damn fam. So Kit Saucy and Kit Toronto Dan, dearest kits. You guys ran for something. You put your name, you put your faces out there. You know, you went to the meetings. You developed your positions. You've learned a lot from your runs. You've gained respect within your communities. Um, I hope that you run again because I am so proud of you for doing so. And I hope that you take what you learned this time and that it's only a matter of when and not if for both of you because we need good people doing good things. So, congratulations to both of you. Um, you are my personal MVPs when it comes to municipal politics for the year. Mwah. Thank you so much. Exactly, Kitsasi. Go and got 4 years to prepare for the next round. And uh, again, all within the rules, but any way that we are allowed or able to help, so long as it's within the rules, please do call on us because, yes, run for something. Run for something. Miss Shattuck going, I'm trying to get Mohan to get involved in a committee that he believes in so he can speak on their behalf at council meetings. He's got the voice and gift of gab. Ah, yay. So, kids doing democracy. And, you don't necessarily have to run for something to do a democracy. There's all the other ways that you can do it too. But yeah, as we say on the show, particularly municipal politics, school boards, that type of stuff, um, we need good people. And like I said, you might be the change you've been waiting for. Run for something. You never know. You never know. There we go. Okay, kits and cubs, municipally. I'm pretty sure that in not the best municipal politicians, I believe it's Linda M or Kit Elaine. I'm not sure. There we go, Linda M. I was waiting for it. I saw it in the chat. I was going to say I'm pretty sure that the Kit Elaine would volunteer Mayor Dilkins, and sure enough, right in the chat, Windsor's mayor is one of those horrible people. Indeed. Ah, it's love and it's real when we start reading each other's minds, kits and cubs. Ah, love it, love it, love it. Christian, considering dipping my toes into the school board. By the way, my friend, let me know, because I never actually asked you, is it Kit Christian English or Kit Christian in French? Because I know we often, on se dit salut en français, souvent. So, just want to make sure I got it right. And that just dawned on me today as I was reading your name that I never actually asked you. so, so I'm asking. There you go. All right, kits and cubs. That's provincially and municipally what caught our eye over the course of the year. And there also, we were talking about, other subject areas, kits and cubs, where things may have caught our eye. Um, Yesterday, we talked about the world of business and the world of science. Um, and in the world of business, I wanted to just mention specifically that we were talking about things as they apply to Canada, because there is also the whole CrowdStrike thing, the fact that Bitcoin, hit 100,000, and Dow hit a record. We could have added that the TSX hit a record high over the course of the year as well. But we were looking specifically Canada, not necessarily global events. So when we're looking at subject specific, we're looking mostly as they apply to Canada, of course. Um, in that, looking at the arts, um, and we had three things that particularly caught our eye. The first one was Maestro Fresh Wes. It's a throwdown, being inducted to the Canadian Music Hall of Fame. I believe the first artist from the rap genre for that to happen too. And interestingly enough, it wasn't too many years ago at the Junos that Maestro Fresh West was actually nominated in a children's recording album. So, bringing his message to the kids as well. And of course, he is having a pretty good television career, also hosting, and I wish I could remember off the top of my head what the name of the show is, but I'm sure the kids and the cubs will do it. But it's having to do with building sandcastles I think it is, but hosting that type of reality show. So, um, a whole new career emerging for a pioneer in music that brought us a lot of, well, at least brought me a lot of funky good times when I was just a wee beaver. um, then probably the big story for us is the fact that the one and only Joni Mitchell picked up a Grammy Award this year for the best folk recording, and that was always a nice moment. And I believe she got to perform at the Grammys this year, if I'm not mistaken. And it had been, not sure if it was the first time ever or the first time in a long time. I would have to look that up again. But yeah, Joni Mitchell picking up a Grammy was a really big thing. And my sentimental favorite, um, Canada's own Bet, Brittle Star's mom, making auditioning and making it on to The Voice UK. Uh, so uh, that's a personal one, but yes, I am a big fan of Bet or Betty. Uh, so yeah, I Brittle Star's mom. Love the music videos. Love the sass and the gumption and the humor, and saw her appearance on The Social, and as well. And she's just delightful. So a personal choice again. Um, not all of these choices are completely and totally unbiased. But hey, it's our brand, so we're allowed to not be objective every now and then. Ah, let's see what else. What do we have here from the kids here? Uh, Kate Dean saying school boards are a great place to be to ensure education is still a priority, no matter what clown show is at the provincial helm. That is absolutely true, and I'm glad that you said that. Thank you so much. Um, Kit Kat W mentioning, so is Hamilton's mayor awful? Yes, yes. If right up there with if I had to pick one specifically out of rather than the whole group of mayors, I would have picked her. I do not know what happened to Andrea Horvath. Again, we say it on the show, but everything I thought that she believed and stood for when she was a provincial politician, it just went is gone. I don't. I can't explain it. I've got nothing. If you ask me, I've just got nothing. Um, let's see. Whatever. What else do we have here? Uh, ah, okay. Christian says background is French but raised Anglo. So Christian, it is. I will guess in that case. Um, but you let me know, however you want it to pronounce it. All my Franco homies in the military call me a spy. I love it. Then definitely Christian in that sense. Then, if you're a spy, it was the good thing. Me too. When my name when I was went to high school. I went to a French high school, and if ever I was called to the principal's office, it was very easy. Douglas, to the principal's Douglas, bureau du directeur, s'il vous plaît. You just had to say my first name because there was only one. Like share. Okay. Kid Saucy saying, joking, municipal beaver party takeover. Woohoo! Yes, indeed. The National Municipal Beaver Party. Wonder that. NMBP. Well, maybe. Huh? It requires a little work. uh, Christian goes, Joni played with Jaco. Jaco is a major inspiration to me. Uh, I'm not sure. I have to plead ignorance here on this one. Don't know who Jaco is. I'm going to have to actually go and look that up. So I'm guessing Do you mean Jaco Pastorius, the jazz bassist, Kid Christian? Just wondering about that because Jaco on its own didn't mean anything to me. Christian goes, French sounds better. I'm happy to call you Christian if you prefer because it sounds better. Yes, okay, the bass player, indeed. Okay, good. Okay, yes, indeed. Because I listen. You know that you're a big deal because all I put in the search engine was Jacko JACO, and the first person that it brought up was this bass player, John Francis Anthony Pastorius III, also known as Jaco Pastorius, an American jazz bassist, composer, and producer who is widely regarded as one of the greatest and most influential bassists of all times. Recorded with numerous artists, including Herbie Hancock, Pat Metheny, and Joni Mitchell. I mean, well, there you go. I mean, Herbie Hancock and Pat Metheny. And then Joni Mitchell. I mean, come on. This guy's the real deal. That those are if Mr. Grizzly were here, particularly given his love of jazz, he would be saying, "Yeah, he's the real deal." So yeah, I can imagine that, Christian. I can imagine that definitely that um, that that would be an event, the meeting of two legends in their respective fields. Yep. I'm down for that. I love those types of collaborations, particularly when they come from two different worlds. So you got jazz and you got folk, and just you get the most beautiful things. There was an album that came out many years ago called Rhythm, Country, and Blues, where it was a fundraiser along with the Red Hot and Blue albums that were raising money, I believe, for HIV/AIDS awareness and whatnot. But it was called Rhythm and Country and Blues. They've got a version of "Ain't It Funny How Time Slips Away" by Al Green and Lyle Lovett. Oh my God. It's so good. There are lots of duets. So there, yeah. If you've never heard of it and never listened to it, if you want to pay yourself a treat, if you're into that kind of music, rhythm, country, and blues, just listen to it. I couldn't recommend it enough as an album. There's just some gems on that, and a lot of them did not get major release or radio play. So you would discover a lot of things there. All right, kits and cubs. I think we have a show, don't you? We've had a nice moment together. The time just flew by, actually. I thought the show would be harder to do alone, but your interaction in the chat made it just delightful and smooth sailing. So thank you so very much, Kits and Cubs, for doing that for me today. All right. Um, so that's the end of this episode. We hope that you enjoyed listening to, well, me in this case, because I liked making this for you. I really do. Every day I look forward to our rendezvous. Remember, sharing is caring and word of mouth is priceless. So please tell your peeps and poops all about us. Oh my God. You actually got me blushing a little bit. But yes, I do look forward to our rendezvous. So sharing is caring. Let your peeps and poops know all about us. It's really important that you do. It's the best advertising that we can get. The word of mouth is fantastic, and it really does a lot for us. So thank you for that. Um, what else do we say? Oh my God, the compliments, Kit Saucy. You are an excellent host and environmental coffee house. What a delightful morning to have this channel on with my coffee. Totally starts me out on a good note. Thank you. What a nice say. Okay, sounds weird, but Beaver, you have beautiful teeth. Thank you for so much. Thank my orthodontist, Dr. Ian Milne in Ottawa. He's probably retired now, but yeah, he did a really good job on these chompers. Thank you very much. Because when I was a kid, I actually had too many teeth. I actually had to pull some out because I didn't lose my baby teeth fast enough. But yes, he aligned them all up and made them look nice and pretty. So thank you for noticing. And then Kit Vimnaidu says, when we're talking about accents, who cares about the accent? Au moins, on se comprend. At least we understand each other. And that is true. That's what matters at the end of the day, right? All right. Okay, kits and cubs. Oh, uncover the news. Sliding in here with Neil Young has announced that he will not be performing at this year's Glastonbury, saying he believes the BBC's involvement in the popular festival means it's now, quote, under corporate control. So remaining fiercely independent all the way to the end is Neil Young. Uh, there we go. Let's see. All right. So please tell your peeps and poops all about us, as we mentioned. Um, if you would like to support us, for example, by making sure you do not miss an episode at all, if you happen to be listening to us on podcast, the ears only version, well, you can do that by going to our pod page, which has been sponsored by the Ray Girl for the last 2 seasons. And we are so very grateful. It's a meaningful contribution that definitely takes a load off our hands. So thank you for that generous gift. If you scan the QR code that's just appeared, sorry, that will bring you to our pod page. And if you are listening, podpage.com/the true north eager beaver, lowercase letters with a hyphen between each one of those words. And when you go there and click subscribe, when we have something fresh off the bandwidth, zip right off the press, off the press, off the zeros and ones. It comes right to you into your inbox. You don't even have to go looking for it. And yes, Christian Neil played with Danko, who I do know. I don't have to go look up. Another fine bassist, indeed. Ah, very good. See, this time I didn't feel like, huh? Where am I? So there we go. You've helped me earn a little bit of additional music cred there by sliding in with Danko. All right. Let's see what else. If you would like to support us in other ways, then you need to make like Kit Elaine and head on down, surf on down, if you would, to the True North Eager Beaver Incorporated YouTube page. And that's that QR code that just appeared by my head. If you happen to be watching live, if you scan that, it brings you right there. And if you go there, you can watch the show live on YouTube, along with the best damn fam in all of podcasting, if you happen to be available to watch it live. But if not, you can always catch the episodes after we watch it live if you want to see what we look like, or if you want to the next day, I believe the chat goes up, follow the actual chat of the Dan fam if you're watching the show a little day later. Also on our YouTube page, there's the ability to comment on what you see, to let us know what you think, and to make super chat donations, by some membership, all that kind of stuff, if you would like to support us through that way. So please surf yourself on down. But the most important thing is that we still have 3 Christmas balls up there. Going to keep our Christmas decorations up until at least the morning of the 6th. So if you would like to go over there and make our balls jingle a little, then like, share, and subscribe. Click them, and that gets us a little bit of happy, and it also helps us with all the algorithms and that type of stuff. So thank you so very much for that. Now, kids and cubs, if you would like to support us in a whole other way, for example, and help us get 2025 off to a very good start, well, kids and cubs, that QR code that just appeared like magic brings us to our coffee page. That's coffee, ko-fi.com/eagerbeaver. And that's where you will find that our stockings are still very quite well hung by the chimney with care, and just waiting for you to stuff them with a whole bunch of goodness. So if you think that we have been a very good beaver and grizzly all throughout 2024, and well, Canada Post was a little late. So if you would like to make sure that there's an expression of your enthusiasm for our show in our stockings, we would greatly appreciate that. So just slide on down our chimney and go to our coffee page and leave a little something there. And now, kids and cubs, because we are making more use of our coffee page, if you're going there, not to give us some financial support, but just to subscribe to make sure that you stay up to date on the latest, because we will, as I said, try to be using it more as our website for the show. Please do become a member there. That way, when we have new things that are posted there, you will be the first to see them, and that's what that's also where we will post um, 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 a weekly retrospective of our shows all in one place. At the we're going to keep it going during the course of the week, but a whole week of Beaver all in one place will definitely be a permanent feature. So if you've ever missed any shows, it's an easy way to catch up on the ones that you've missed by date. They'll just be there, and you can just go there and click, and it will bring you right to our YouTube page where you can watch them. So just trying to make things a little easier for you to find. Also, yes, thank you, Elaine, for saying that. Our coffee page does have a poll that's up because we're trying to find new ways to interact with you, kits and cubs. And right now, it's a test poll, but just to see how it works. But yes, we are asking a still a serious question of you, kits and cubs. So if you would like to help us test our poll to make sure that it's working, because we want to see what type of response we get, we would definitely appreciate that. I'm so glad you mentioned it, Kit Elaine, and I am going to include a link to it here. Now, my question for you on the poll is, what is your biggest wish for yourself in 2025? And our options are improve my physical health, learn a new skill, upgrade my education, work on my mental and emotional health, make a big life move, or make memories slash have experiences. So there's 3 days and 14 hours left to vote on that. Like I said, trying to find more ways to create some interaction with the kids. And this year, for next year, those polls will help us with our year-end review, because we'll be able to give you a list of nominees for our year-end topics and ask you to vote on them, for example. So a whole bunch of other things like that. So yes, please do, Kits and Cubs, go to our coffee page, not only to show us financial support, but to register as a subscriber so that you can stay in touch and be in um, get all the new initiatives that we're going to try to bring to you this year in order to make this a more interactive and fun and enjoyable experience for you. But if you are able to contribute something, we would be very grateful. Just leave a little something there, and you have our undying gratitude. Plus, our laboratories do show that tipping is very sexy. It increases your sex appeal by 27.3%. It does. It's just science. It's just science. All right. If you would like to help us in other ways, however, because it's not just about finances. The gift of your attention and participation are the gifts that matter most to us, and we want to hear from you. So let us know what you think. If there's some issues of the day that are on your mind, you got an opinion, you got a rant, let us know. Write to us. DrewNorthEagerBeaver@gmail.com is our email address. Just put a little something in the subject line that lets us know that you're writing to us for the show, and we would be happy to see what we can do to incorporate your views into the show. It's not just us, right? We want to give an idea of what the kids and cubs think too when we're doing the show. So please send us your feedback. If you have any suggestions for new initiatives for us over the course of the year, suggestions of where it is that you think that we should go if we're going to bring our pubcast on the road a little bit next year. Any type of a suggestion like that, we really do welcome it. Everything that you do helps us make the show better, and we are grateful for your participation. Because democracy is something that you do, kids and cubs. Still, take it easy for the next little while. Trust me, we're going to need you in the game soon enough. So just recharge your batteries, and there'll be more for you to do. Being helpful also means doing the self-care that is required to be sure that you're in a state of readiness to be helpful when called upon. So this is the time for that. So keep your powder dry. There will be stuff. Words of wisdom, kids and cubs. Oh my, let's see. Um, I know that if you're politically minded, there's a lot going on right now, okay? And there's a lot of anger. One thing that always works for me when I find that things get a little tense is singing and dancing. I just put on some music and I throw myself a little dance party. I just sing and dance. Sometimes it's in my shower, sometimes it's in the living room. Sometimes it's just 15 minutes. Sometimes I got time for a whole hour of it. But I just sing and dance. And I don't know, there's something about dancing and singing. Um, it's hard to be thinking about other things while you're singing, uh, and it's hard to be sad when you're dancing because it's freeing. Dance is freedom, movement is freedom. So that works for me. Maybe that works for you. Um, and maybe it's a not singing and dancing per se, but maybe it's something, maybe it is movement, maybe you're a boxer, maybe it's some time on the speed bag or the punching bag. Maybe, uh, you practice Tai Chi or yoga and it's going there and centering yourself. But movement and focusing on something that brings me joy, that requires that my full attention be divided to it. It's hard to sing well if you're not paying attention to, how you're controlling your voice. It's hard to, you know, it's hard to bake well if you're not doing it with love as you're doing it, if you happen to be a baker. So that type of thing. Um, you know, get yourself out of your head and into a project and move. And maybe that will do something to change your mood or at least make the doom go away for a while. Okay, kids and cubs. That's about all I got. Kid Environmental Coffee House goes, oh my gosh, that's what I do. Singing and dancing is the best. And you know what? As the saying goes, it is only those who do not hear the music who think the dancers are crazy. Always hear the music, kids. Always hear the music. All right. So I think now would be a good time for me to do the ritual cueing of the cock. So here we go, kids. And I will be back with a little something for you afterwards. Okay? You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters. CanadianTarot.com, their uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community, and The Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from farm fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. We are grateful to the Crier Media Network for its support, Pete Jarvis for our artwork, and Paul Joseph Something for our opening and closing sequence music. All right, kids and cubs. Before we go, just wanted to give you a little bit of news. Yesterday, we talked about Catherine Stewart Jones, I believe, who had gotten the best result of her career in a cross-country ski race, and like by a lot. I think the best she had ever done was 18th place, and she picked up a fourth place in a 20-kilometer race just before the holidays. Uh, she did it again. She followed that up with a seventh place in the 15-kilometer classic sprint. So, wow. She is, I don't know if she's just having a really good week or if something has, um, y- you know, um, she's unlocked something and she's hit a new plateau. But never having had a top 10 in your career to landing two of them back to back, something is going on there. So congratulations to her. Um, let's see, what else do we have here? Kit Coffee Ass saying, well, then I've been the crazy one. I'll take that badge with honor because I'm guessing you hear the music and you dance. Whatever you do. And Kit Jen said, so true. The resentful cookies are not nearly as delicious. That's great. Kits and Cubs. I love you all. Kits and Cubs, potential programming note, depending if Mr. Grizzly is feeling up to it. A lot of people have been asking when we would do another Daily Beaver morning show. Nights. Um, there's a possibility that might be tonight. We've been talking to Miss Emily of the Muse Spa so that we can do an episode with regard to the changes in the law with regard to sex trade work in Belgium and what the status of those laws here are in Canada and whether there's a need for it. That type of discussion, and it seems that she would be available this evening for that type of conversation. So hopefully, Mr. Grizzly will be as well. If not, we will then be recording it at another time to bring it to you as a morning show, because we also do believe that this topic doesn't get enough coverage and should be treated as a normal morning show topic. But schedules, this is an industry that works on different hours than we do. Miss Emily said that she did prefer a recording in the evening if possible. So if that does happen tonight, we will have a special nights episode for you. So stay tuned and hope that you join us live because I'm sure the conversation for that one in the chat would certainly be really interesting. As Kit Miss goes, ooh, that would be interesting interview. Kit Saucy, that would be good. So yes, please do absolutely join us for that. All right. And with that, I am off. Everybody, have a most beaverific day.